Do you have the power to influence somebody? Are you good at it? Do you think you've influenced somebody at any point in time in your life? Well, that's what we're going to be fearlessly questioning this week with none other than duct tape marketing himself, John Jantsch. And the reason that I wanted to bring John on specifically to talk about this topic is because John has a special place in my heart, we'll say, as he is the guy that I credit to as kind of inspiring me, influencing me to fall down this rabbit hole that is kind of modern business, if you will. Online marketing, internet marketing, inbound marketing, whatever words you want to apply to it. I read his book, The Referral Engine, basically right when I was getting into the insurance business, and it really just opened my eyes to kind of how I should be approaching things, how I should move to approach things in the future, and really just was the launching pad for that base of knowledge. And I wanted to bring him on to talk about that. And he's got a new book out. It's called Duct Tape Selling, and it's basically rewriting the sales book. The book on sales, how you sell, and doing it in today. And one of the biggest obstacles that I'm just thinking about that you're probably experiencing, anybody in business that has trouble with in adopting these new things, is if you're working in a job, if you aren't setting your own schedule, if you aren't making your own rules, you generally have somebody else that you have to run these ideas by, and these people that you need to get buy-in from. And your ability to influence them to take these actions, to be a part of this new thing, to do anything new. It doesn't matter if it's a completely different way of selling or marketing or whatever. It's this influence that lies at the core of it, and really what sits behind the influence is inspiration. And can you inspire them enough to want to take a risk, take a leap, and do something different, do something new? That is, I think, what we are all challenged with when trying to make a big change, whether it is, again, even in the business world or even in our own little world, our own personal world within our own family. We have to influence and inspire our significant others, our spouses, our family members, our brothers and sisters and parents and children, children especially, to do the things that we want them to do and get on board with our ideas. And it's really hard if you don't know what you're doing. And so I'm really excited to talk to John about that. And thinking about it, when I think of influence, being again, coming from the music world, you always talk about your influences when you're dealing with music, and you talk about them in a way that they kind of make up who you are. When you get together with a group of musicians, you will talk about the music that got you to where you were, and you have a pretty good idea of whether or not you're going to want to keep playing music together moving forward based upon those influences and what they have kind of meant to you, and how you've kind of allowed them to shape who you've become as a musician. And that's obviously one of the biggest areas that you hear the word influence tossed around. Obviously, there are, within the film and industry and any really creative, artistic, artists and things like that, influences are more heavily regarded than in the business world or, even in the personal world. We say, who do we look up to? Who are our role models? Who are our mentors? But we don't use the word influence, influences. We don't use that often. And I don't know why. And, I have a ton of influences everywhere, in every corner of my life, and very specifically in business and marketing that I look up to, and people that have influenced me in the way that I go about my business and things like that. And like I said, again, at the core of it, and using music as an example for this, influence happens when you are inspired. And to be inspired, you have to do something for somebody. And again, in music's case, you have to move them in a way that no other band or no other song, no other lyric, no other vocal, whatever, guitar riff could. And that is something that I don't know that we maybe lose sight on, within other aspects. Is it business? Is it marketing? Is it sales? I don't think it matters, because at the core of whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's whatever, you have to influence somebody to do what it is that you're trying to communicate, whether it's buy this thing, whether it's to read this article, whether it's to watch this video. It doesn't matter. You have to influence them. You have to inspire them. And I think that's where we get lazy sometimes, and we kind of remove the passion. And obviously, anything dealing in the arts and the creative realm, it's easier to be inspired. It's easier to be influenced because there's more of an emotional connection to those things. The last time I got excited about a whatever TPS report, that'll be the first. Nobody gets excited about these kind of things in business a lot of the times. Sales funnels. I mean, some people do, and if you get off on it, have at it. Go have a field day. Go do what you want. I'm not going to stop you. Celebrate it. Be proud of it. But it's just there's not as deep of an emotional connection, and I think that's where we struggle. And if we can somehow start to make those connections, and I think, again, as I'm talking this through with you, a lot of that comes into telling your story and implementing, overlaying that story over top of these things, and that will be the ultimate emotional connector to this whole thing, is learning how to do that. I don't know if that's right. I'm going to ask John about it, but how, really what we want to get at is, how do we do this? How do we influence people in such a way that they take these big, bold actions, do these things, invest this money, whatever your new whiz-bang thing is that you want somebody to pay attention to. I'll be very interested to see what his response is. Again, John's used to talking about, things that are business and marketing related. And I think it was Chris Brogan, had made a comment. I can't remember if Chris was on John's podcast or if John was on Chris's. I think it was Chris on John's, but made a comment that John was just kind of this, reliable, steady, kind of guy in the marketing space, of voice. Basically saying that everyone kind of overlooks those steady hands, those role players, if you will. And I hate to call John a role player. But his message isn't sexy. It's nothing that is, he doesn't have the same, I guess, sizzle as some of the other influencers, and that's a whole nother kind of can of worms that I don't know I want to touch on in this little discussion. We'll see where it goes. But he doesn't have the same, like I said, the same sizzle. You forget about him a little bit easier maybe, and he basically, I guess, not to run this thing through the mud and really just completely make a mess and mockery of it. But Chris basically insinuated that you kind of, you overlook John's work because it's steady, it's reliable, it's always there. And the thing that, I wanted to make, and I'll try and make this point to him, is that, what he talks about is pretty ordinary, but it is in a revolutionary kind of way. He talks about John's overall delivery is and I should have. I'm terrible. If you know anything about me, I'm terrible at writing down things and thoughts when I get them, and I should have. I do my best to hold on to them, but I really had it really good one time. But basically, the point that I wanted to make about that is that the reason that happens is because, and the reason I think that is entirely not true about what John does is that he presents these new entire frameworks of systems of ways things should operate, and while it seems like, oh yeah, of course, that's the kind of feeling you get, but to actually outline that, put it together, and then present it is something entirely different that even some of these more sizzly influencers have, they can't even do. And to be that type of architect, to have that kind of influence, is something that I find kind of remarkable in itself. But it's just it does go overlooked, and even I at times find myself not listening to John's podcast or reading his blog as often as I maybe should. But it is where I started, and to have him come on to talk about that and talk about one, how I'll just gush a little bit on him. I'll kind of have him pull out my little marketing Teen Beat magazine, have him sign it, and it'll be awkward for you guys, but I'll be having the time of my life, so don't worry about that. And really talk about that, and what you'll hear from John in his little rant coming up, I think is also very interesting. And then I know John also, I talked with John a couple days ago to record this stuff beforehand, and in his Fearless file, which will go up right after the show, which John will be on live with us on September 4th. And his Fearless file will be available over at fearlesslyquestioning.com. Just go ahead and grab access to that. And what he talks about in that, I think, will be very interesting to hear after our conversation, because you wouldn't expect it at all. And basically what I've just spent the last 10 or so minutes talking to you about, John basically questions himself if it's valid. And so you're going to want to go do that. Just hop on over to fearlesslyquestioning.com. Right on the homepage there, it'll say get access to the Fearless files. Just name an email and you will get access to John's answer to what fearless question he's most afraid to ask in his own life and business, and how he's working to answer it, along with every previous guest, from Chris Brogan to Mark Traphagen to Mia Voss to Marcus Sheridan to Ryan Hanley, Jenny Dietrich, Tom Morkus. They're all in there. Every guest that comes on the show is going to be in there. It's updated every week, so you don't have to worry about just getting some generic report that people put together just to get your email. It's a constantly evolving and growing thing that you will always have access to, and I definitely plan to build that out much deeper. I do a lot more things with that, and really include more things as we kind of grow here with this little thing. So you're never going to not have something new to check out. So your email is not going to be given in vain. And you're only going to hear from me once a week, too, just to put that out there while we're talking about it. So every Sunday morning, you and me will have a little time to reflect on the conversation of the week, the fearless question of the week. And really, it's just me sitting down and saying, okay, after me talking about it to you for 10, 15 minutes or so, after listening to what John had to say, and then actually having to have that discussion with him and hearing what your reaction was and your questions and your feedback were on that, kind of taking all that and just kind of letting it kind of come out in an email, and obviously having you kind of reply and write back to me. If you reply, it's going to come to me, and I'm going to say, hey, great, let's talk about it, and we'll have that conversation that way. And that's really what you're going to get when you opt in, and there's really nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. And like I said, planning some more things with that down the road, but we want to make sure we got what we got working. So I think I've gone off on enough of a little mini tangent there on that, and properly set the stage and given you my thoughts on influence and inspiration thing. And the question that I would just leave you with is, have you inspired somebody? Have you influenced somebody? I mean, inspiring, I think, is an even taller order, and something that we obviously aren't as aware of because we don't ask people if we inspire them, and it's kind of an egotistical, arrogant thing to say. So yeah, but maybe we should all take a shot and try to ask people a little more often. Hey, did I inspire you? But that's it. I'm gonna get out of here. We'll be back with John on again September the 4th. That's gonna be at 2 p.m. We'll be live, hanging out. Feel free to come talk with John and bring your own fearless question, because the person that asks the best fearless question in the event page there is going to be invited to join us on camera during the hangout. So you'll have an opportunity to talk one-on-one, ask John your question directly. A lot of fun. We had some success with it so far. Like to keep it going, want to get you guys involved, and have some FaceTime with these guys. So hope that you take advantage of that, and I'm really excited about that opportunity and to talk to somebody a little bit different every time. That'll be a lot of fun. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I am Joey Giangola. Take it easy, everyone.